I woke up and found that I had been reborn 7 days before the outbreak of the zombie virus, on the day when my boyfriend's mother forced me to break up. Memory recall, my boyfriend's mother seemed to have given me 20 million to leave her son, but at that time I refused. I lost my job in just a couple of days, and shortly after that, my landlord found a reason to evict me from the rental apartment. I have been hiding everywhere since the outbreak of the zombie virus, to survive. I lost my dignity and lost myself, surviving in the vast ruins of the city. Just half a year ago, during a zombie siege, I was pushed into the horde by my companions to buy them time to escape. The taste of flesh being devoured still sends shivers down my spine to this day. If I could do it all over again, how should I choose? I was still in a daze when the sudden ringtone of a text message interrupted my thoughts. Miss Lynn, I will arrive at Blue Mountain Cafe in 10 minutes. It is a text message sent by my boyfriend's mother, Ms. Wu, with the exact same timing as the message from the previous life, and the content is identical. I immediately came to my senses, washed my face, grabbed my bag, took all my documents, and went downstairs in my lightweight sneakers. When Ms. Wu hurriedly arrived at the entrance of the Blue Mountain coffee shop, she was already there. The Blue Mountain Cafe was silent, with not a single waiter in sight, clearly reserved for a private event. Ms. Wu held a cup of Blue Mountain coffee in her hand, and across from her was a cup of iced latte, which should have been ordered for me. This familiar scene made my heart tremble, and I increasingly felt that the zombie virus would really break out in 7 days. Hello, Aunt. I hurriedly took a seat, greeted her, and silently observed Ms. Wu. Well, Chanel's custom dress, Patek Philippe's watch, Cartier's high-end custom diamond, necklace, and earring collection. The large pigeon egg pink diamond ring, I completely didn't notice in my previous life. I was too preoccupied with the nervousness of meeting the parents for the first time. At this moment, I finally understand that Ms. Wu deliberately dressed this way to show me the class difference, seeing me sit down like a fool and not say a word. Ms. Wu was very pleased with the intimidating effect brought by her outfit. She took her exquisite Hermes handbag and took out a bank card from it. There are 20 million in here, you understand what I mean, right? How could I not understand this familiar tone and familiar actions? As an orphan with both parents deceased, how could I possibly be worthy of a top-tier wealthy family's son? It's said that you like me and want to pursue me, but it's not me you're after. In my previous life, because of that pitiful self-esteem and being humiliated, my eyes were filled with tears. At this moment, I expressionlessly picked up the iced latte in front of me and took a small sip. With a face full of sarcasm, I portrayed the image of a gold digger vividly. It turns out that in your heart, your son is only worth 20 million, which is even less than the value of your outfit today. Ms. Wu looked at the girl in front of her, beautiful like a lily, with a hint of provocation at the corners of her mouth. Her face full of anger. Miss Lin, how much do you think my son is worth? Why not make an offer? I really don't know how much money Gu Shai's family has. After all, he was very low-key when he was in school, so low-key that even the 10 yuan short-sleeve shirt I bought for him on Pinduoduo looked perfectly fine on him. I could only roughly estimate Ms. Wu's bottom line and reported a figure, 50 million, plus this watch on your wrist, this set of necklace and earrings. I don't want a card. Just transfer the money directly to me. Of course, the watch, earrings, and necklace can also be cashed out directly. Since they all came to show off to me, why not just let them all stay? I stared intently at the shiny diamond on Ms. Wu's neck, revealing my greedy expression. Who can't act? Ms. Wu was taken aback for a moment. Her expression was vivid and varied, clearly not expecting me to be so thick-skinned as to not even spare the accessories on her. Good, very good. Send me your card number. I want you to leave this city today and never come back. I smiled sweetly at Ms. Wu, and neatly took out my bank card and ID from my crossbody bag and placed them in front of her. With a crisp ding, I checked my text messages and saw an 8-digit deposit starting with 8 in my bank account. Smiling, I took back my ID card and bank card, stood up, and bid farewell to Ms. Wu. Thank you, Aunt. I left the cafe with a light step, took a taxi straight to the airport. and booked the fastest flight back to my hometown in Yun Province. You heard it all, right? Mom has already told you that Lin Lin is after your money and can't stand the test. What she played before was just a trick of feigning indifference. Ms. Wu's victorious words echoed in the cafe, but unfortunately, I didn't hear a single one. Before leaving the cafe, I sent a breakup text to Gu Shice right under Ms. Wu's nose, and then blocked him. Well, I am still very honest. I just graduated from university and decided to stay in Kyoto to find a job because I just started a relationship with Gu Shice, but now it's no longer necessary. I called the landlord to terminate the lease and boarded the plane home. My hometown is in a second-tier city in Yun Province, surrounded by mountains and water, with a very good environment, located on the outskirts of a scenic area. My parents left me a 3-story building with a wall in my hometown, which was uniformly planned by the government and built entirely according to the design of a standalone villa, solely to enhance the quality of the scenic area. The first thing I did when I got home was to go to the bank and withdraw a lot of money. Then I contacted the renovation company to come to my house to repair the wall and reinforce the doors and windows. And by the way, I asked them to cover the rooftop with soil under the pretext of planting flowers. I quoted a high price. But within half an hour, a renovation company came to my door with workers. I reminded him that the walls and gates should be reinforced with sturdy anti-theft doors. The walls should be built to over 3 meters and have barbed wire added, and all windows should be fitted with solid protective bars. Be sure to ensure that 3 or 5 burly men cannot break into my room. The foreman immediately understood that I was the only one in charge. The little girl lives alone, and it's great that she has such a sense of safety. Don't worry, I promise to fix it solidly for you. I thought about it and I feel that a brick wall is not very safe. Zombies are fast and stronger than ordinary people. What if the wall collapses? Please add a denser iron fence inside the brick wall. The price is negotiable. I paid half of the deposit on the spot, and the foreman assured me with a smile that it would be completed in 3 days. I can't help but sigh that money can make the devil push the mill. Indeed, money is all-powerful. After handing over the renovation to the foreman, I changed into some old clothes, took a taxi, and went to the city to buy a car. Purchasing a Wuling Hongguang, I asked the boss to help me remove the back seat, and I recalled the driving knowledge I learned in driving school as I hit the road, stumbling along the way. Half an hour later, I had become an experienced driver, skillfully weaving through the flow of traffic. I arrived at the largest grain and oil market, and immediately used the excuse that I needed to prepare for a family banquet, starting to buy a large quantity of grains and oils. On the way back, not only was my Wuling Hongguang packed full, but there were also 2 small trucks following behind. As soon as I got home, I put the purchased grain into the storage room on the first floor, where there were still 2 lonely bags of rice, harvested from the rice my parents grew last year. Unfortunately, we hadn't had the chance to eat it before they had an accident and passed away. The commotion at my home had already alarmed the neighbors, and before I could say anything, the driver from the grocery store came to my rescue. Is the young lady preparing to hold a banquet because she is getting married? I nodded vaguely as a form of agreement, saying that once the date was set, I would invite everyone to come for the meal, and then hurriedly left. As soon as she got home, she started renovating the house. She hasn't graduated from college yet, has she? Did she manage to catch a wealthy husband? Why is there no man at the wedding, leaving a woman to manage everything back home by herself? Looking at her appearance, could she be someone who is being kept or is a mistress? I pretended not to hear the whispers of the neighbors. I've seen too many envious and jealous looks from childhood to adulthood. After unloading the goods, I locked the storage room door and drove my Wuling Hongguang straight to the next destination, the outdoor equipment store. Backpack, sleeping pad, moisture-proof mat, kerosene lamp, climbing rope, windbreaker, down jacket, stove and cookware, multifunctional water bottle, water purifier, high-power telescope, strong flashlight, climbing pick, Swiss Army knife. Seeing the baton and pepper spray placed in the corner by the shop owner, I pondered. I took out a wad of cash and chatted with the shopkeeper for a few moments, and sure enough, he had items like stun batons and animal traps that are regulated. I bought 3 sets of everything I felt I could use, almost clearing out the store. after agreeing with the shop owner to deliver later. I drove to the snack and beverage wholesale market to start my raid: instant noodles, self-heating hot pot, self-heating rice, canned fruit, ready-to-eat canned food, etc., until the car was full. After confirming with the boss about other easily storable dry goods like biscuits and candies, I parked the car in front of a pharmacy. After consulting the store clerk and having her help me gather various essential medicines needed for a 10-person camping trip, I switched to another pharmacy and continued to buy different types of medicines using the same approach. It wasn't until there was only one place left for someone to get off the car that I drove home. After running back and forth more than a dozen times, I finally moved everything from the car into an empty room on the second floor. The materials prepared by the foreman on the first day were not sufficient, and the workers had already finished work. They will work overtime to complete it once the materials are adequately prepared tomorrow, in half a day's work. All the security doors in the rooms have been replaced, and the foundation of the surrounding wall is also taking shape. The progress is quite good. I had just prepared to catch my breath when I heard the roar of a car outside. Looking at the time, it was the delivery from the outdoor equipment store. By the time I had everything properly put away, I was so tired that I didn't even want to move my toes. After hastily washing up, I, who was extremely tired, suddenly lost my sleepiness. At this moment, I am carrying a huge secret and surprisingly cannot find anyone to share it with. I was unconsciously scrolling through various consultations on my phone and couldn't help but anonymously post a message on major social media platforms. 7 days from now, the end of the world may come. Those who believe me should stock up on food and water, and when the time comes, close the doors and windows tightly and do not go outside. Many people may call me a madman or a fool, but this is all I can do. After all, I can't guarantee whether the zombie virus will break out in 7 days. I lay in bed slowly drifting into sleep when suddenly, at 4 in the morning, 2 men's wails sounded from outside the door. In the dark, I didn't turn on the light. I let out a cold laugh, put on my clothes, picked up the stun baton and the powerful flashlight from the bedside, and slowly walked downstairs. Through the cat's eye, illuminated by the moonlight, I saw 3 figures. 2 people are crouching down, holding a leg and muttering curses, while another figure is lying on the ground trying to rescue someone. I frowned. Sure enough, there were still not enough traps, and some fish managed to slip through the net. As I hesitated between calling the police or going out to deal with them myself, another muffled scream reached my ears. The person who was saving others stumbled and stepped on another trap while helping to pull the animal trap. All right. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I glanced at the heavy security door and chain lock and turned back to the bedroom on the 3rd floor. Not long after, a rustling sound came from downstairs again, and then it fell silent. After it got light, I looked down from upstairs. The 3 places downstairs where the animal traps were set up are now gone, along with the people and the traps. I went downstairs to collect the remaining traps and waited for the foreman to come over. Half an hour later, the foreman arrived with a large group of workers and 2 big trucks of materials. I locked the places that needed to be locked, exchanged a few words with the foreman, and then drove out. Medicines are still the main focus of my purchases today. After all, when one is not well fed or warmly dressed, even a small cold can take a person's life. I bought all the medicines I know a little about, including cold medicine, fever reducers, stomach medicine, high blood pressure medicine, and diabetes medicine, and I even prepared several oxygen tanks. I almost ran through all the pharmacies in the city before I managed to fill my Wuling Hongguang a little bit. I solved the medication issue, parked the car in a safe place, and took a taxi to the farmer's market to start purchasing seeds. I bought more than 3 copies of all kinds of vegetable seeds and fruit seeds that are sold in the store. I put the seeds back in the car and went to the largest electronics mall in the city. Large capacity freezers and refrigerators, solar water heaters, solar panels, air conditioners, power banks, rice cookers, induction cookers, electric pancake makers, air fryers, a complete set of knives, and cooking utensils. There are also the most critical gas stove and gas cylinder. Having paid, left my address, and agreed on a delivery time of 2 p.m. I hurriedly finished my lunch and specifically came to the agricultural machinery market. Sharp and lightweight rechargeable weeding machines, high-power rechargeable handheld chainsaws, fire axes, etc., are my main targets. For zombies that need to be decapitated to be killed, these are useful and purchasable weapons. I placed an order for 5 sets in one go, and agreed with the boss to have them delivered to my small detached house the day after tomorrow. I just found a cafe to sit down, took out paper and pen to carefully make a list. The safe residence will be completed soon, a large amount of food has been prepared, medicines and weapons are equipped, and all that remains is a large supply of drinking water and seasonal clothing. I didn't take my luggage when I came back, and I should also get my clothes, shoes, and socks ready. The sun is about to set, and I tirelessly arrived at the largest mall in the city, heading straight to the sports section to start shopping. Sportswear and sneakers are undoubtedly my first choice. Sportswear for all seasons and various lightweight sneakers, underwear, socks, towels, blankets. I have enough money in my card to buy. By the time I returned home sitting in the special car arranged by the mall with dozens of bags of clothes, the wall had already been built more than halfway. I specifically had the foreman add rebar to the wall for added strength. Before the sun set, the workers barely finished building the wall and began installing sharp barbs in the fading light of the sunset. On the third day, I left early and brought the medicine back and locked it in the room before the workers arrived. I didn't go out in the morning. I stayed at home waiting for the delivery from the appliance store. By the time the workers helped me install and debug all the appliances, my fortress was almost built. The outer wall was completely finished in the afternoon, and the spacious and heavy double anti-theft door was also installed properly. The iron wall inside has also been successfully poured. After settling the final payment with the foreman and looking at the solid wall gate, I finally felt a bit of security. The shiny security door reflected my frail body, and I frowned as I drove to the store that sells fitness equipment, treadmill, dumbbells, jump rope, arm strengthener. I bought everything the boss recommended, then I drove home with a whole truckload of mineral water, running back and forth until evening, looking at the room full of bottled water. I admire my own potential a bit. It turns out I am not as powerless as I imagined. Trembling with my hands lying on the bed, I opened the shopping app and started placing orders frantically. It's the 618 event, and many people are stockpiling goods. I'm just taking advantage of the situation. Toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, laundry detergent, shampoo, sanitary tampons, sanitary napkins, and other daily necessities are all bought in boxes of 10, compressed biscuits, chocolate, canned food and iron containers. And my favorite spicy strips are never too much. I estimated that the quantity purchased on one platform had reached its limit, so I switched to another platform consecutively. I contacted customer service when I placed the order, and I had only one request, which was for next day delivery. The fourth day was a rainy day. I looked out at the heavy rain and had a vague sense of foreboding. I left early and went to the vegetable market to buy a whole cart of fresh vegetables, fruits, and fresh meat, filling the refrigerator at home to the brim, and only then did I open my phone to start browsing the news. The last time the zombie virus outbreak occurred, it rained heavily for a day and a night. And then incidents of people biting people began to appear everywhere. As the events continued to escalate, the zombie virus completely broke out across the country and even the world. 6 hours later, Kyoto has a dense population and is an international transportation hub. With the appearance of the first zombie, it quickly swept through the entire city, leaving no opportunity for anyone to react. Nowadays, I am in a remote city in Yun province, which should be much better than staying in Kyoto. The trending topics on various social media platforms are still the boring gossip of the entertainment industry, with no special news, and the messages I posted were met with a flurry of disbelief. I shook my head and laughed, then casually turned off my phone and went to sleep. What I didn't know was that on this night, incidents of violent biting and hurting people were happening one after another across the country, quickly rising to the top of trending searches. I didn't sleep well during this nap. In my dreams, I kept replaying the scene of being pushed into a horde of zombies, those terrifying zombies. The pain of being bitten is so frightening and real, it plunges me into nightmares. I was woken up by the delivery guy's phone call. Opening my hazy eyes and looking at my solid walls, I let out a deep breath. I am still alive. That's great. I opened the gate to let the delivery guy unload in the strange gaze of the courier. The first floor is already filled with food and water, and I have moved all these daily necessities to the second floor. Fortunately, each floor of this small building is over 100 square meters, and there is a garage downstairs. The area of the 3-bedroom suites is large enough. By the afternoon, everything I ordered last night had been delivered. I drove out to prepare to get another box of potatoes, sweet potatoes, yam, dried vegetables, and other foods that do not need refrigeration and can be stored for a long time. When they arrived at the market, there were noticeably more people buying fresh vegetables than before, and many were carrying large bags, looking hurried. My right eye has been twitching, and after quickly paying a high price to buy what I wanted, I immediately drove home. On the way, I turned on the car radio to the news channel, and sure enough, I heard the news I least wanted to hear. Last night, there were frequent biting incidents, and the government urged everyone to stock up on food during this time and to stay home as much as possible and reduce outings. When I opened my phone, the appeal message from the government was also pushed by various social media platforms. A sudden jolt in my heart, and at the same time, a bit of confusion. The biting incident happened earlier, indicating that what I experienced in my previous life was really not a dream. Is the zombie virus really going to break out early? The previous government did not release any news, and such biting incidents were merely trivial matters in the daily lives of various places. It seems like something is different. At this moment, there are still 5 or 6 hours until the complete outbreak of the zombie virus, and it feels as if a countdown to the end of the world has been set in my heart, ticking away incessantly. After getting home and unloading the things from the car, I hurried to continue shopping. Stockpiling is never too much. I try to choose some less crowded markets and supermarkets to shop freely. There are 2 hours left on the countdown set on my phone, and I arrived at the gas station in an empty car. Fill the tank. I spent a fortune to buy a whole truckload of gasoline. I drove carefully along the way, afraid that a zombie would suddenly rush out and pounce on my car. Fortunately, I returned to my small courtyard safely all the way. After parking the car in the garage in the courtyard, the first thing I did after getting out of the car was to close and lock the gate of the wall. A thick iron chain as thick as an arm was fastened to the gate of the iron fence, and only then did I lean against the gate to slowly calm my heartbeat. After taking several deep breaths in a row, I slowly calmed down. Just as I finished moving the things from the car into the room, the alarm on my phone suddenly went off, startling me. I instinctively turned off all the lights, pulled the curtains on all the windows, and covered my mouth with my hands, shrinking into the corner. It took me a while to realize that I had overreacted a bit. I didn't turn on the light, just sat on the floor and opened my phone. In just a few hours, there were reports about zombies all over major websites and social media platforms. The zombie virus has indeed broken out early. I looked at the food and water all over the room, tears streaming down my face as I laughed. A news report from the Kyoto government soon startled me. Dear citizens, the zombie virus has now erupted all over the world. Please make sure to protect yourselves. Do not go outside. Lock your doors and windows. Do not turn on lights at night, and try not to make noise. Only by decapitating zombies can you completely kill them. Please be sure to check if those around you have any wounds. The government can't possibly discover the characteristics of zombies' phototropism and sound-seeking so quickly. Did someone, like me, be reborn and tell this information to the government? Soon, the next news consultation confirmed my guess. The government has already taken corresponding measures and will soon launch rescue operations. An emergency shelter has been built on a certain street in Kyoto, and everyone can go to the shelter for refuge, as long as we unite. The disaster will eventually pass. Looking at this information, my heart is filled with bitterness. In my previous life, I hid with some survivors for more than a month, never knowing that there was a shelter in Kyoto. Clearly, this life is really different. I turned off my phone and fell onto the bed. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep, but unexpectedly, I quickly fell into a dream. In the middle of the night, I was awakened by a loud banging on the door. And I heard a woman's voice at the door. I got up, pulled aside the curtains, stood in front of the window on the third floor, and silently looked out at the wall with binoculars. Lin, are you home? Please open the door and lend me some food. There are zombies in the city, and the whole city is in chaos. I can't buy any food at all. Yes, Lin, you bought so much rice and flour before. Can you lend us some? The fact that I have stockpiled a lot of food is not a secret in the neighborhood. Under the moonlight, the camera captures the two neighboring ants. Only after the news of the zombies broke did they set their sights on me, thinking I would be easy to bully alone. My family is an outsider. It just so happens that my grandfather worked here, and my father was born here and settled down on this land. The locals are always resistant to outsiders, and when my parents passed away, these people never came to see us even once. 5 figures hiding in the corner of the wall were clearly captured by my thermal telescope. I silently tugged at the corner of my mouth. These people clearly weren't here to borrow food, but probably wanted to seize it by force. I'm afraid that as soon as I open the door, they will rush in immediately. What they want to seize is not just my food, but also my house. Seeing me not respond, the two of them were still tirelessly banging on my door, making a loud noise, and I frowned. Did these people make such a big fuss without seeing the government's announcement? Don't they know that such noise will attract zombies if there are any around? The zombies have no body temperature. I held up the thermal telescope and scanned around, seeing nothing. When I turned the lens back, I was surprised to find that there were 2 fewer shadows in the corner. As I looked up, I saw 2 men holding a wooden ladder against my wall. I sneered and cursed them for being foolish as I looked at the iron wall 2 meters away from the fence. The reason I built 2 walls is that the first is to prevent zombies, and the second is to prevent people. In the apocalypse, the ugly side of human nature is magnified to the extreme. People are far more terrifying than zombies. I have surrounded the iron wall with thorns. To climb up, one must first see blood. The apocalypse has just begun, and I don't want anyone to intrude on my territory at this time. I quietly walked to the gym and picked up a recurve bow that I had chosen when buying fitness equipment. The recurve bow is simple, lightweight, and easy to use. I have already learned how to use it at the sports store. Within 20 to 30 meters, I think my accuracy should be quite good. It's almost okay. I have stocked up on a few hundred arrows to practice slowly. I casually carried a quiver of arrows and arrived at the window facing the wall on the 2nd floor. Just as I was getting into position to shoot, the first person to stick their head out heard a sudden exclamation from the bottom of the wall, followed by the sound of scattered footsteps and the ladder collapsing. Run, zombies are coming. The wailing was mixed with the strange howls of zombies, outside the walls under the night. The bloodthirsty howls of zombies are so familiar yet strange. It is clearly midsummer, yet I am filled with a chill. I didn't expect that this was just the first day of the zombie virus outbreak, and the virus spread so quickly that even in such a remote place, people were infected. It seems that this is a sudden outbreak of a global disaster that cannot be escaped no matter where one is. I thought I was ready, but I didn't expect that just hearing the sound of zombies could make me collapse and be so scared that I couldn't move. I gritted my teeth to stop my trembling, reached out and pinched myself hard, and under the stimulation of the pain, I finally overcame my fear and regained my ability to act. I put down the recurve bow and raised the binoculars again. The person climbing the ladder saw the zombie first and had already jumped down to escape, while the person holding the ladder was knocked down by the suddenly appearing zombie and was bitten beyond recognition. Someone was sacrificed, and the remaining people hurriedly ran home. But unfortunately, the loud banging on the door attracted more than one zombie. A zombie suddenly rushed out from the shadows and knocked down the man who was running last. I remember this zombie's face. It belonged to the elderly person who stayed behind in the house closest to the city. Aunt Jo, who lives to the left of my house, was a bit slow on her feet, just 2 steps away from following her husband into the house. She was grabbed by a zombie that appeared behind her. As long as the man helps her get rid of the zombies, the woman can be saved, but that man actually pushed her out without hesitation and slammed the door shut with a bang. The woman has not been bitten yet, but at this moment, her heart is already as dead as ashes. Clearly, he only needs to pull her once and she could be saved. I didn't expect that their decades-long marital bond would be so fragile in the face of crisis and death. Aunt Jo's face was still filled with shock and disbelief. If she had relied on her own strength at that moment, she might have been able to break free from the zombie, but now, pushed by the man, she was completely pushed towards the zombie, and at that moment, the terrifying zombie had already bitten her arm. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. 5 minutes later, Aunt Jo had already become one of the zombies, perhaps because of unwillingness and resentment. The other zombies continued to move forward in search of food, while Aunt Jo lingered at her doorstep for a long time, unwilling to leave. In just a few minutes, several once vibrant lives turned into cold zombies. I observed for half an hour by the window, ensuring that the zombies wouldn't climb the ladder, and only then did I collapse to the ground. After calming down, I no longer felt sleepy, took out my phone, turned the volume down to the lowest, and checked the news. The apocalypse has just begun, and the internet hasn't been cut off yet, but it won't last much longer. As the number of infected people increases, cutting off the internet, electricity, and water is just a matter of time. In the dead of night, the internet is bustling, with all platforms sharing various events related to zombies. Some people are grieving for their relatives who have turned into zombies, while others are flaunting their supplies. The only constant is the few eye-catching announcements issued by the government on the homepages of major platforms. I was speechless with a smile. It seems that the person who knows about the outbreak of the zombie virus has a deep background, otherwise how could they persuade the government to issue this information? Unfortunately, how many people can the emergency shelters in Kyoto accommodate? These places without refuge can only rely on themselves. The supplies I have stored are enough for me to eat for 2 years, or even longer. By the time the vegetables I planted on the rooftop mature, I can survive even longer. I stretched out my arms and hugged myself tightly, whispering to myself, Lin Lin, you can do it, don't be afraid. Just as I was cheering myself up, my phone suddenly vibrated. I looked up and saw an unfamiliar number. I have a strange feeling in my heart that this call is from Gu Shice. When the phone vibrated for the 5th time, I pressed the answer key. The call connected, but the signal seemed to be unstable. However, just by the sound of breathing on the other end, I knew the person on the phone was Gu Shice. I feel a bit guilty, afraid he will ask me why we broke up and why I left without saying goodbye. But I quickly realized that this time I was the one who left him first, after his mother left in the last life. I called him countless times and sent countless messages, but I couldn't reach him at all. I only received a breakup text from him on the day I was fired from the company, and the content was exactly the same as the one I sent him a few days earlier. Lin Lin/Gu Shice. We broke up. After that, the zombie virus outbreak occurred, and I never saw him again until I was pushed into the zombie horde. With Gu Shice's somewhat hoarse low greeting, my memories came to an abrupt halt. Lin Lin, are you okay? I was about to speak up to tell him that I took the high-priced breakup fee his mother gave me and that I'm doing great now, when I heard a young woman's voice coming from across the room. She should be very close to Gu Shice, close enough that I can hear her softly yawning through the phone. Shirkai, who are you calling? Why are you still awake so late? You have to be busy tomorrow. Go to sleep quickly. Why is Gu Shice calling me in the middle of the night while lying next to a woman? I abruptly hung up the phone, sitting dazed in the dark, tears streaming down uncontrollably. I self-deprecatingly tugged at the corner of my mouth, wiped away my tears, and thought, in this apocalyptic world, what love and romance are there to think about? The most important thing now is to stay alive. As soon as it gets light, I will climb the wall with a ladder and pour gasoline on the collapsed ladder to completely destroy it. After that night, it seemed that the villagers were all scared out of their wits, and for several days in a row, hardly anyone went out. While the internet is still working, I downloaded a lot of fitness and self-defense tutorial videos on my phone and computer, and filled my phone with novels to pass the time during leisure. Apart from 3 meals a day and rest, I spend the whole day training in the gym for fitness and archery. I do not pursue strength, only speed. I want to develop muscle memory so that I can run a little faster when I need to escape. The recurve bow is the focus of my daily practice, and I have sharpened all the smooth arrowheads into sharp arrow tips. After the outbreak of the zombie virus, the weather also became strange, with the summer temperature that was originally around 28 or 29 degrees suddenly soaring to 40 degrees. Feeling the cold air from the air conditioner, I can't help but marvel at how simple the happiness of the wealthy is. This noiseless air conditioner worth tens of thousands was not bought in vain. On the 7th day of the zombie virus outbreak, I was enjoying a pleasant nap when I was suddenly startled awake by a few chirping sounds coming from the second floor. The cries were dense and urgent, although very quiet. They were impossible to ignore. I was startled. Could something have invaded my small building without my knowledge? I got out of bed quietly, tucked a kitchen knife at my waist, and held a recurve bow in my hand, barefoot and cautiously making my way to the second floor. The sound is coming from the room where I placed the vegetables and fruits. I looked at the security door with a slight gap and suddenly remembered that I came to get a potato at noon today and forgot to close the door when I left. The sound of chirping kept coming from the crack in the door. I crouched down carefully to look inside, gripping the bow tightly in my hand. My palm all sweaty. What can be seen is two double-door refrigerators placed against the wall and various vegetables and dry goods that can be stored for a long time leaning against the wall. No one is in sight. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my heart was in my throat again. I remembered the animals from my previous life that were also infected with the zombie virus. This sound is very similar to those disgusting zombie mice. They are small in size, move quickly, and have sharp teeth. Encountering a horde of zombie mice almost means total annihilation. Very few people can survive after encountering a horde of zombie mice. My heart tightened. Could it be that a lone zombie mouse quietly sneaked into my home from somewhere I don't know? But why don't they come to attack me, instead hiding in my vegetable storage? Zombie mice are just like ordinary zombies, bloodthirsty and biting people. And they do not eat regular food at all. Attacking the living is their instinct. A significant reason why the zombie virus spreads so quickly is largely due to them. In the last life, everyone would screen for zombie rats as soon as they found the camp, sealing off all the passages that rats could enter. I didn't dare to move forward recklessly, but instead ran back in the 40-degree heat to put on my hiking boots, wrap myself in a thick jacket, put on gloves, and gently pushed open the door of the vegetable storage room. With a creak, there was no movement inside the door. Only the chaotic chirping sound continued. I walked step by step towards the corner where the sound was coming from. There are no zombie mice at all. In front of me, among a pile of dried amaranth, are actually a dozen newly hatched mini chicks. Why is it mini? Because this is a nest of ruffed grouse. I remembered a few days ago when the ants selling vegetables stuffed dozens of small quail eggs into the dried acacia vegetables I bought. I forgot about this matter after I moved the vegetables into the storage room. I didn't expect that there were more than a dozen fertilized eggs inside these eggs, and they all hatched today. I was both surprised and delighted, quickly taking off my heavy gear and finding a box to put the dozen or so baby quails that hadn't opened their eyes yet. I exercise all day, and my physical consumption is high, so to enhance my physique, I eat meat quite aggressively. I myself am hesitating whether to control my meat intake, as I am afraid I won't have enough stock. Seeing these more than a dozen little reed chickens, I regained my confidence to eat meat every day. The Luzon wren is small in size, has strong disease resistance, eats little, and has a short incubation period. It takes 45 days from hatching to maturity, and they can start laying eggs in 50 to 60 days, due to its small size and high egg production characteristics. Many young people are currently keeping the looting chicken as a pet, happily collecting eggs every day. The daughter of the vegetable seller's aunt is such a lovely girl who enjoys picking up eggs. At that time, the enthusiastic aunt also showed me a video of her daughter raising quails. As long as you set up a simple breeding room, it can be completely raised indoors. The looting chicken does not crow either, as long as the security door is closed. The sound of the looting chicken cannot be heard outside at all. Although the little quail is small, it is particularly prolific. As long as I can support this group of quails, I can have meat to eat every day and collect eggs daily. I can't even imagine such a good day. I happily held this group of lovely little ones in my arms, wishing I could kiss them a couple of times. Taking advantage of the internet, I immediately checked the tutorials and precautions for raising looting chickens on my phone. Using the leftover cardboard boxes and plastic sheets from unpacking deliveries, I pieced together a small breeding room for my quails on the 3rd floor. 15 little chicks ultimately survived to 10, and every day after my exercise, I just circle around my Luwa chicken, able to foolishly watch for more than an hour. I also named each chick and talked to them every day like a fool, for a long and lonely period of time. They were my only companions, on the 10th day of the zombie virus outbreak. The power and water were cut off, and the internet also collapsed. The unusually high temperatures are still continuing. I have solar power generation equipment and a whole house full of mineral water, so I'm not too anxious. The neighbors around the house, who do not have much drinking water, can no longer sit still. On the morning of the 15th day of the zombie virus outbreak, I heard several cars driving away. Until evening, none of the departing cars returned. 2 days later, there was the sound of breaking windows and banging on doors, and then it fell silent again. Under the continuous high temperatures, the vegetable seedlings have already been sunburned to the point of near death. I am on the rooftop saving the seedlings that are not completely dead, moving them all to a shady spot and tidying up the sunshade. On the roof, in addition to the area covered with soil, there is a reservoir the size of a room where water can accumulate up to the knees. I put some fish fry in the pond. The water here is specially used for flushing toilets, which is green and environmentally friendly. Lift the sunshade. The fish fry are still alive, but the water in the pool is only 10 centimeters deep. I frowned and thought, if it doesn't rain soon, I should prepare a dry toilet. After organizing everything, I took the opportunity to look around with my binoculars from a high vantage point. Several houses nearby have damaged doors and windows, and they must have been completely ransacked. Suddenly, I felt a gaze firmly locked onto me. The feeling of being secretly watched made me very uncomfortable, so I immediately went downstairs and returned to my hiding place. Through the lens of the telescope, I only saw a few zombies wandering not far away and did not find the person who was spying on me. It seems that I, a big stockpiler of food, have caught someone's attention again. I'm not afraid of thieves stealing, but I'm afraid of them keeping an eye on me. Those who secretly spy are like venomous snakes lurking in the dark, wanting to deliver a fatal blow. I can't just sit and wait for death. I started to analyze how I would attack my fortress if I were the other party. After the analysis, I immediately took action regarding the defense vulnerabilities I could think of. From now on, I will eat and sleep as I should every day, while waiting for this poisonous snake to come to my door. On the 30th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the unusually high temperatures are still continuing. Perhaps it was the preparation that had already been made or reaching the limit. But that morning, as dawn broke, I heard the roar of cars outside the wall. I immediately got up and looked down from the window. 2 black SUVs with steel pipes welded to their windows stopped several meters apart under the wall of my house. Perhaps fearing that the sound of the car would attract zombies, I finished eating a loaf of bread and drinking a box of milk before the back door of the car opened, and 6 tall men got out from 2 vehicles. The leader is the production team leader Deng Guizhong and his idol son Deng Wenbin, and the other 4 should be their relatives, whom I haven't seen much. But a few people look very similar in appearance. The people in the cabins of the 2 cars didn't get out, clearly ready to run away at any moment. I let out a cold laugh. This group really thinks highly of me, knowing full well that I am all alone. Yet they still made such a big fuss. It seems they are quite familiar with zombies and specifically chose a morning when the zombies are not very active. Deng Wenbin, who is about 1.8 meters tall, and Deng Guizhong quickly climbed onto the roof of the car, and then a person beside the car handed them a thick cotton quilt from the back seat. The 2 people stood on the roof of the car and together threw the quilt in their hands over my wall, covering a large area of barbed wire. The other 3 people followed suit and set up the quilt from the other side of the wall. I walked to the 2nd floor, carrying a recurve bow and the arrowheads I had prepared, waiting for them to climb the wall. Soon, Deng Wenbin and another man climbed over the wall, and when they stood on the wall and saw the iron fence 2 meters away, they were obviously a bit dumbfounded. When Deng Wenming looked up at me again, I had just lit the arrow wrapped in fabric and soaked in gasoline, aiming in his direction. A sound of breaking air rang out, and Deng Wenbin dodged as the arrowhead struck the cotton quilt beneath him. It missed, and actually didn't hit his little brother. This Deng Wenbin relies on his father being the production team leader to be idle and lazy, and he particularly targets our family, which is an outsider. When I was in high school, this place hadn't been demolished and rebuilt yet. He often blocked me at the entrance of the village when I got out of school, making many lewd and disgusting gestures towards me, which caused me a long-term psychological shadow. After that, I had my dad pick me up every day, and he finally calmed down. The dry quilt caught fire with a single spark, and jumping forward was the ground covered with animal traps. Deng Wenbin awkwardly jumped back into the off-road vehicle. The first arrow hit the target, and I shot the second arrow without hesitation. Obviously, the man didn't expect that I had this up my sleeve, and he fumbled to find a way out of the wall. I opened the door, carrying the things I had prepared earlier, and set up the ladder that was kept in the house against the iron fence. When I climbed the ladder with my things and looked down at the wall, the group had not left yet. Sure enough, they are still unwilling to give up, staying here and still plotting ways to deal with me. It is impolite not to reciprocate, since you didn't cherish the opportunity given to you. Don't blame me. I ignited what I had in my hand and threw it towards the location of the off-road vehicle. I only stopped after throwing more than a dozen in a row. The sound of bottles shattering mixed with 2 explosions rang out around my house, immediately attracting the wandering zombies nearby. I was lucky. 2 of the homemade Molotov cocktails I threw landed perfectly and blew up the tires of 2 SUVs. Now they can't leave even if they want to. The vehicle caught fire and was likely to explode, so Deng Guizhong and his group had to get out of the car and flee together. I quickly returned to the house, locked the front door, and stood behind the curtains on the 3rd floor, quietly watching the scene of them being chased by a dozen zombies. At first, I thought it was just the Deng Guizhong family who had such bad luck, attracting so many zombies. As their group continued to scream in agony, I found that the number of zombies around us was double what I had imagined. A sudden jolt in my heart, I quickly turned off all the appliances at home that could make noise. The chicken coop for raising looting chickens has been moved to the most soundproof bathroom. After pulling all the curtains in the house, I hid behind the heavy curtains, frowning as I watched dozens of zombies drawn in by the noise. I calculated the time in my heart. 1 month after the outbreak of the zombie virus in my previous life, the number of zombies surged, and a wave of corpses appeared everywhere. Countless zombies gathered together, wandering through the city. Many houses were destroyed in the tide of corpses, and more people became zombies in the tide, further strengthening the ranks of the corpses. Now this situation clearly shows that the surrounding zombies are gathering. A zombie tide must be coming. In my last life, I sold my body to survive the tide of corpses. At that time, I lived every day like a walking corpse, humbly reduced to dust for half a loaf of bread and half a bottle of water. I often wonder what I am really holding on to. To live a half-dead life, still to see him one more time, to ask one last question why. The past is unbearable to look back on, but I know that this time I will definitely be able to survive the tide of corpses. In the next 3 days, the number of wandering zombies outside increased, until they gathered into a tide of zombies. It feels as if all the zombies in the city have gathered on this land. The surrounding sounds of zombies wailing seem to completely envelop this world in waves of sorrow and joy. I am highly tense. During the day, I minimize any sounds that might occur in life, and at night, I don't dare to turn on the lights at all. I dare not sleep, constantly paying attention to the movements outside the small building. For a full 3 days and nights, I had no idea how I managed to get through it. Fortunately, the zombie tide just passed by. As my tall and sturdy walls surrounded my small building, without discovering my presence, the other houses in the village were not spared and were damaged significantly during the zombie tide. Many villagers who did not hide well were also discovered and became part of the tide of corpses. 2 more days passed, and the terrifying tide of corpses finally came to an end. With the departure of the zombie tide, many of the zombies that had been wandering around also disappeared. And I felt more at ease lying flat at home, on the 35th day of the zombie virus outbreak. The hot weather abruptly ended, and a strong wind suddenly blew at night, accompanied by thunder. This is a sign that it will rain all over the world. I was overjoyed and immediately ran to the rooftop to retract the awning, completely exposing the rooftop, then place all items that can collect water outdoors to gather as much rainwater as possible. Listening to the dense sound of rain outside in the evening, I felt completely at ease. The hardest times are over. And I will definitely be able to live better in the future. The heavy rain lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, washing the dirty land clean, and even the air became a bit fresher. After the rain, the sky cleared up, and the temperature finally returned to normal. I stand on the rooftop once again, and all I see before me is the ruin and desolation left by the tide of corpses. I think I might be the only living person in this area. Outside, they say we don't know when zombies will appear again. And I continue to stay in my fortress. Under the heavy rain, the rooftop pool has been refilled with water, and the fish are swimming happily. I renewed the soil and replanted the seeds. The only remaining 2 cucumber seedlings and tomato seedlings have also survived stubbornly, and it won't be long before they can bloom and bear fruit. I water the vegetable garden every day, take care of the chickens, continue practicing archery, and exercise, living a very happy life. On the 60th day of the zombie virus outbreak, I weighed myself and surprisingly gained 5 pounds, looking at the braised rice with cured meat, cold cucumber salad, sugar-coated cherry tomatoes, and Crucian carp soup in front of me. Forget it, let's eat. I'm all muscle. In the afternoon, while tidying up the chicken coop, I was pleasantly surprised to find 2 tiny eggs. Where there are chickens, there are eggs. Where there are eggs, there are chickens. I have already started to imagine the wonderful scene of having a plate of braised eggs in my left hand and a bowl of crispy chicken in my right hand. On the 70th day of the zombie virus outbreak, a drone was circulating in the air playing a recording. The Sea City shelter has been completed, located at XX Street, and survivors can go to the shelter for refuge. The government has taken measures to eliminate zombies, and the public must ensure their own safety. Let us unite and overcome the difficulties together. The government's response capability is so fast. It's only been 2 months, and even in my hometown, a second-tier city, they've already built shelters. In my previous life, the government couldn't fully control Kyoto until I was pushed into a horde of zombies, let alone support other regions. After experiencing an apocalypse, I am skeptical about the news released by drones. It might be that someone is fishing, just waiting for those foolish fish to voluntarily bring all their belongings to the door. In the apocalypse, trusting others is betting your own life. This is a high-stakes gamble between life and death, and I won't place my bet easily. I glanced at my belongings and lay down comfortably at home, after being a couch potato for several days. One day after dinner, I found a small radio that my dad bought for me in elementary school in the corner of my room. I impulsively found a pair of batteries and installed them, and unexpectedly, the radio still works. I put on my headphones, fiddled with the radio in my hand for a long time, and suddenly heard Gu Shai's voice coming through on an unknown frequency. It's like seeing a ghost in broad daylight. In the radio, the man's voice remained warm, but it clearly carried a hint of weariness. Survivors, this is Kyoto Radio. I am Gu Shai. Please do not believe the rumors spread by criminals using drones recently. Currently, the shelters across the country are located in Kyoto, City A, City S, and City Z. The shelters in City K and City W are still under construction, and there are no government-affiliated shelters in other cities. Please be sure to verify carefully. The government has been organizing armed forces across the country to eliminate zombies. Please continue to hold on. The Kyoto radio station will broadcast live at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Please tune in to FM 89.66 MHz. If everyone encounters a girl named Lin, please help me tell her that I am waiting for her in Kyoto. Thank you all. Later, a different person reported some precautions and evasion techniques when encountering zombies. as well as some basic survival knowledge. I didn't hear anything at all, just sitting on the edge of the bed in a daze. Goose Scheiss is looking for me, am I not dreaming? In the coming week, I will set the alarm clock and tune into frequency 8966 HMZ at the designated time. I assure you that I only want to understand the real-time developments regarding the zombie virus, and it is definitely not to hear Goose Scheiss speak. The announcers on the Kyoto channel are not fixed, and the duration of each broadcast is also not fixed. For nearly a month after that, I didn't hear Goose Scheiss' voice again. As if the last time I heard him speak was a hallucination I had. However, the content in the broadcast has been consistently conveying positive news. For example, the government has organized experts to begin researching vaccines related to the zombie virus. For example, the troops have already cleared which safe area, etc. Listening to the radio slowly became my habit of passing the time in loneliness, and I no longer expect to hear that person's voice again. On the 100th day of the zombie virus outbreak, I hatched the second batch of quail, and the chives and bok choy on the rooftop have also grown several times. Looking at these chattering little lives, I can't help but smile. The laughter had not yet reached the eyes, when suddenly a huge roar of cars and motorcycles sounded from outside the wall. There are obviously more than one vehicle. I closed the chicken coop and took the recurve bow. I had just walked through the window and hid when I saw two armed off-road vehicles and a large motorcycle parked outside the wall. 2 drones are fixed on the roof of the off-road vehicle. 8 men and 2 women were standing by the car, and at that moment they were talking loudly and recklessly around my small building. Yo, shouting Z, is this the building you were talking about? This building is nice. The walls are solid, the locks are intact. It's indeed suitable as a base. Did you say that only a little girl lives here? You're not lying to us, are you, boss? Don't worry, this woman is a dead end. Her whole family died before the zombie virus outbreak. I guarantee she's the only one here. Hee, and she is as beautiful as a movie star, guaranteed to satisfy the boss. However, she can shoot arrows, so the brothers need to be careful when they go in. This is Deng Wenbin's voice. I didn't expect that he actually didn't die and has now found a backer. The most despicable thing is that he actually dares to covet my little building. Cut, our boss isn't even afraid of that group of the People's Liberation Army, so why would he be afraid of a woman? Deng Wenbin, if you're scared, just stay away and don't hold the brothers back from working. Ha, I heard that he almost got his family jewels shot off last time. This kid probably has some psychological trauma now. Don't talk nonsense. Being hit on the pain point. Deng Wenbin was somewhat exasperated, and the bald man he referred to as the boss raised his hand, causing everyone to fall silent. He was quietly instructing the crowd about something, but I couldn't hear it at all because I was too far away. I can be sure that they are definitely discussing how to deal with me. I only know one phrase: strike first for the advantage. I packed my handy tools and went to the rooftop, continuously lighting the firecrackers I had prepared here and throwing them towards the crowd outside the wall. The sound of firecrackers crackled incessantly around. That group of people was startled by me and immediately looked up to search for my figure. I have long hidden away, not letting them discover my location. The continuous sounds immediately attracted a few wandering zombies not far away, and I achieved my goal. But this group of people is actually not afraid at all. Bang, bang, bang. After a few gunshots, the zombies were completely eliminated, and these people were unharmed. Only Deng Wenbin was dragged over to act as a shield when that bald guy was almost bitten by a zombie. He was bitten by the zombie. In his shockingly incredulous gaze, he was shot in the head by that bald brother. Deng Wenbin has lost his value in the eyes of these people. He is like I was back then, a discarded pawn that can be thrown away at any time. My heart tightened as I deeply realized that this was a group of insane lunatics. These people only see themselves and don't take others' lives seriously at all. Given that these people have guns, I became increasingly cautious while also no longer holding back. Taking advantage of the favorable terrain, I began to throw the next type of weapon, a glass bottle filled with gasoline and iron nails. Glass bottles exploded one by one outside the wall, sending iron nails flying everywhere and injuring several people in an instant. My act of resistance clearly angered this group of people. under the leader's signal. They dodged the randomly shot iron nails while shooting at me with guns, taking advantage of the gap while I dodged the bullets. They quickly climbed the wall and picked the lock. These people are clearly habitual offenders of arson, murder, and robbery, and they are well equipped with various tools for climbing walls and picking locks. A man soon arrived at the wall, riding a bike and carrying a mattress. The moment the mat touched my wall, I shot out a lit rocket arrow, but surprisingly, the cotton mat did not catch fire. Damn, these people actually had the fireproof asbestos mats ready all along. The person who climbed over the wall a second ago was still mocking me for wanting to burn the asbestos mat, and the next second was shocked by my second iron gate. He climbed over the wall intending to open the door for his accomplice, but unexpectedly, as soon as he took the first step, he stepped on the animal trap I had hidden in the lawn. Obviously, Deng Wenbin also didn't know that I had this hidden weapon, nor did he have time to tell them that there was a second iron gate inside the wall. The man inside the wall was howling as he was caught in the animal trap, while the expert outside was successfully unlocking my door. The person outside pushed the door hard, and it made a clanging sound. They didn't expect that I had added a particularly thick alloy lock to secure the doorknob, and without opening the alloy lock, they couldn't squeeze in at all. The lock head of the alloy lock is hidden behind the door, and it is obviously impossible to open the lock directly. Through the crack in the door, they saw the second iron gate inside, and at the same time, they saw an arrowhead flying straight towards their companion. With a grunt, the arrowhead ruthlessly pierced through the man's neck, leaving a blood hole on his neck before crashing into the surrounding wall. The man slowly fell to the ground, covering the 2 blood holes in his neck, while his companion, splattered with blood, awkwardly retreated and raised his gun to shoot at me. With one arrow hitting the target, I immediately changed my position. At this moment, I was hiding under the parapet on the rooftop, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I killed someone. I really killed someone. This is my first time killing someone. My heart is racing, adrenaline is surging, and my hands are shaking uncontrollably. I gradually calm down amidst the constant shooting and cursing of that group of people. The other party has lost 2 out of 10 people, leaving 8 remaining. Afraid of being shot, they no longer climbed the wall, and the bald brother was instructing his little brother to go to the car to get the hydraulic pliers to prepare to cut my big iron chain. I rushed to the first floor and opened one of the rooms, where I got my new weapon among a row of agricultural tools. They have guns, and I have one too, but mine is a modified large-caliber nail gun. I still remember when I told my boss that I lived alone and wanted to buy some self-defense items. At first, my boss said he only had farming tools and nothing else. Later, under my overwhelming cash attack, he recommended this to me. According to the boss, this type of gun is usually modified for bird hunting, with an effective range of 50 meters. This one is his personal collection. My house is less than 15 meters from the wall. The range is sufficient. To be honest, this is the first time I've used this nail gun. I recalled the method my boss taught me and aimed at the man who was clamping my iron chain through the gap in the window. With a bang of gunfire, the huge recoil made me fall to the ground. A thick iron nail has been shot into that person's neck. Don't ask me why it's the neck again. Just know that I think the neck is a bigger target than the heart and easier to hit. This place is equally deadly, and there are no ribs to shield it, making it the easiest area for a novice archer like me, who lacks arm strength, to miss. A iron nail was stuck in the man's neck, and he clutched his neck in pain as he fell to the ground, making gurgling sounds in his throat. Blood kept pouring out from the hole pierced by the iron nail, and each breath was a torment for him, yet no one helped him. In a world lacking medical care and medicine, this can already be considered a fatal injury. The bald boss was furious, gave him a shot to free him, and then raised the gun to my house and started shooting wildly. As soon as I fired this shot, I immediately changed my position and was now crouched behind the wall column. Not daring to make a sound, I was calculating in my mind that I had solved 1 person, and there are still 7 people left. This is a life and death struggle, and I am lurking in the house waiting for the next attack. The leading man decided to meet me in person after venting his frustrations. The person with the clamp lock changed, and next, every time I just poked my head out, I would be discovered by the man. Every time I pull the trigger, he can shoot and force me back. That was the closest I have ever been to death. A bullet grazed my face and shot into the wall behind me, leaving a streak of blood on my face. I was so scared that my heart raced. I was almost hit. A chill ran through my heart as I suddenly realized that this person was a professional gunman. I couldn't possibly compete with him. Seeing that the chains are about to be broken and the iron gate will be breached sooner or later, I must adjust my defensive strategy. I wiped the blood off my face, and my brain started to work at high speed. A minute later, I put down the nail gun, picked up the recurve bow again, and crouched as I went up to the second floor. With a snap, my alloy padlock was broken, and this group pushed open the gate of the wall. Today even the heavens are on my side. The wind direction is right at the door. So I immediately tore open the flour bag and started pouring the flour down. A large amount of flour was blown away by the wind, disrupting these people's line of sight and preventing them from capturing my location. I was using a thermal telescope to watch the red figures in front of me quickly draw their bows and shoot arrows. I kept shooting arrows until I finished all the arrows in the quiver, and only then did I shake my hand and hide it under the windowsill to rest. The sound of the arrow being shot is not easy to detect, and the flour blinding their eyes also prevents these people from seeing the direction the arrows are coming from. However, a few arrows shot into the iron fence made a clanging sound. While there were also a few cries of pain, the flour gradually dissipated, revealing several figures in front of the iron gate. The man on the far left among the five had an arrow in his thigh, and he was collapsing to the ground, crying and wailing in pain. Even a slight movement caused a large amount of blood to flow from the wound, clearly indicating that I had hit his artery. To the right is the locksmith, who is now lying on the ground with 2 arrows stuck in him, one in his left eye socket and the other in his chest, his life or death unknown. In the middle is the bald boss, whose marksmanship is the best. He is the main target of my attention. I didn't expect he was quite lucky. He only saw an arrow stuck in his left arm, and he didn't know when he had pulled a woman in front of him with his right hand. A woman has an arrow in her neck, abdomen, and thigh, covered in blood, and is already dead. All these deadly arrows were blocked by her for the bald boss. At this moment, the man under the bald head has neither good nor bad luck. He was not hit by the arrow, but in his panic, he accidentally stepped on a trap, and his right calf was firmly caught in the trap, unable to move. The luckiest were the man and woman on the far right, because they were the furthest away. I wasn't very accurate with my shots, and the arrows were blocked by the iron fence, leaving those 2 unharmed. The woman seemed to be frightened out of her wits by the scene before her, letting out a scream as she turned and ran towards the door, with the man closely following behind. The woman hadn't had time to run far before the bald boss shot her in the head, and her death was tragic. The man was quick on his feet and had already stepped onto the motorcycle, but just as he started it, a bullet hit the motorcycle's fuel tank, causing it to explode on the spot. While the bald boss is busy fighting among themselves, I quietly draw my bow and shoot, but he was too alert. Before the arrow arrived, he had already lifted the female corpse in front of him, completely shielding himself. He was gnashing his teeth and shouting while carefully backing out, "Stinky bitch, I will definitely kill you." I remained silent, and the next arrow directly ended the man trapped by the animal trap. 7 people solved 6 at once, and I let out a deep breath. After the bald guy exited the wall, he hid in my blind spot, and the 2 of us remained in a standoff until it got dark. While the bald boss didn't dare to rush in, I took the opportunity to throw a lot of gasoline-filled balloons towards the door. The balloon landed with a dull sound, and the bald boss thought I was making ineffective attacks, not showing up at all. Some balloons burst as soon as they hit the ground, but under the cover of the smell of blood, the bald boss did not notice anything unusual at all. The strong smell of blood gradually attracted the zombies hiding in the dark. The bald boss hid in the off-road vehicle and then shot the approaching zombies one by one. The sound of gunfire continued outside the door, and half an hour later, it returned to silence. My weapons and tricks have been almost fully revealed, and the bald boss is a demon who kills without blinking. I dare not let my guard down for a moment. 4:30 in the morning, the most exhausting time of the day. The bald boss quietly sneaked in through the door at this moment. I pinched myself hard a few times and forced myself to start implementing my plan. I pretended not to see his figure and randomly shot several arrows in different directions to make him lower his guard. When he thought I couldn't hit him, the arrow with the flame had already whistled past. Before this, many balloons had already burst after landing, and by the time the bald boss smelled the strong gasoline odor, it was too late. Arrows with flames ignited the gasoline on the ground one after another with ease. The dry weather combined with the blowing evening breeze caused the flames to leap high, trapping him. The bald boss, surrounded by flames, couldn't see my position at all and could only fire his gun wildly. I am not afraid of death and continue to add fuel to the fire. One by one, balloons filled with gasoline were thrown down by me from various places, and the bald man struggled in despair in the sea of fire. Ultimately falling silent, I slumped on the floor, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. I don't know when I had already tears streaming down my face. I won, I successfully defended my fortress. I lost, I didn't kill the zombies first, but I did kill quite a few of my kind. Thinking of the weapons and equipment I used today, I can only feel an endless sadness in my heart. Nail guns, Molotov cocktails, gasoline bombs. These things are completely useless against zombies. These are all used to deal with people. I sadly discovered that what is most terrifying in my heart is not the zombies, but the insane humans in a chaotic society. Talent is the most terrifying creature in the world. I burned the bodies of those people because I was afraid they would dirty my little courtyard. I took usable supplies from their car and brought back their drone, locking the gate of the wall again. I started my days of living in a cocoon in my fortress, growing vegetables all day, raising chickens, exercising and practicing archery, fulfilling and happy. A few days later, I had nothing to do and started fiddling with the drone. I charged the drone fully, connected my phone, and controlled it to fly into the sky. I was just trying to use it to check the surroundings for any zombies. But unexpectedly, not long after flying out, a group of people fleeing in a hurry appeared in the drone's camera. This is a small team of 10 people, among whom 8 tall men are wearing dark green camouflage uniforms, their faces painted with grease paint, and they are protecting an elderly woman and a little girl in the middle while retreating. This should be a team of government soldiers, as only regular troops would protect defenseless elderly and children like this. There is a figure that feels strangely familiar to me. Before I could take a closer look, I saw dozens of zombies marching behind the camera. Goodness, did these people poke a zombie nest? Gunshots rang out, and after a round of shooting zombies, the team was clearly low on ammunition. The familiar figure gestured to the crowd, and everyone immediately stopped shooting and quickened their escape. At the same time, that person also noticed the presence of the drone. And a pair of familiar eyes suddenly looked at the drone, appearing before me. I was greatly shocked, although his face was covered in grease paint, making it hard to see his features. His eyes looked very much like goose ice. Almost instinctively, I maneuvered the drone to fly around him, then shook it twice towards the small building, and immediately I controlled the drone to fly towards the small building. As if our hearts were connected, he immediately led his team to follow my drone. The team followed the drone to the outside of my small building, looking a bit confused at my tightly closed door and the towering walls. As the zombie army was about to catch up, I tied the key to the door to an arrow and shot it straight at that person's front. He quickly picked up the key to open the big door, and just as he closed the door, the zombie army arrived. Before these people could be surprised that there was still a door in front of them, they heard the moans and banging of zombies outside the door. The prey that was within reach could not be eaten, and they gathered outside the wall, tirelessly scratching the wall and clawing at the door. Some team members were eager to retaliate and couldn't help but speak up. "Captain, should we fight?" The eyes were very much like Captain Goose waving at him. "No, this door is very sturdy. They can't get in. Save your strength just in case." After speaking, his gaze turned to my window, as if he wanted to see my appearance through the curtains. From the moment I heard his voice, I was stunned on the spot. This person is actually Goose. On the 108th day of the zombie virus outbreak, I really saw him. After the surprise, I have regained my sanity. Even if he is Gushais, it doesn't matter, I have nothing to do with him now. Saving them has been the most adventurous thing I've done since my rebirth, and I won't meddle anymore. The animal traps under the wall have been cleared by me after the last battle. Seeing them obediently staying under the wall without any other actions, I no longer pay attention to them. Half an hour later, the zombies outside not only did not retreat on their own, but became even more agitated. They stubbornly guarded outside the wall, looking as if they would not give up until they caught someone. This is not right. Generally speaking, as long as you don't make any noise and hide quietly, the zombies will give up after waiting for a while and then look for new targets. Is it that this group of people has something that attracts zombies? Gushais obviously noticed something was off. His intelligence finally kicked in during this brief respite. It seems that ever since they saved someone, they have been chased by zombies. As the screams of the zombies outside the wall grew more and more mournful, he immediately ordered to shoot. His team members formed a human ladder in pairs and began shooting zombies while standing on the wall. I also picked up the recurved bow and kept drawing the bow to shoot arrows. After a wave of attacks, more than half of the zombies were killed, but they not only did not retreat, but still relentlessly wanted to rush in. The ammunition for Gushais and these people is a bit tight, and they have stopped the attack. My arm is also sore to the point that I can't draw the bow. I frowned and looked at the 10 people downstairs. The soldiers were all on high alert, looking outside the wall, ready to fight at any moment. The little girl followed Gushais closely, her face full of fear, like a little tail. Only that old woman sat alone by the wall, her eyes darting around, her gaze evasive, trembling uncontrollably at the sound of the zombies' howls outside. I had some suspicions in my heart, so I wrote a note and sent it to Gushais using a drone. Even if my security door is sturdy, it can't withstand the constant impact of numerous zombies. I will never open the second iron gate for them again. Please check immediately if any of you are carrying anything that attracts zombies, especially that old woman, because my hands are shaking, my writing is crooked and I don't know if Gushirtsi recognized it. Soon I saw what Gushai said, and then the soldiers beside him immediately began to take off their clothes for inspection. After checking himself, he helped the little girl check once, then walked towards the old woman. The old woman trembled like a sieve, not allowing him to come close. Gushais waved his hand, and immediately 2 soldiers subdued the old woman. A black plastic bag immediately fell from her arms, and as the bag's opening was revealed, there was a large piece of rotten meat inside. A strong stench of decay immediately spread, and the zombies outside the wall became even more restless. Everyone suddenly realized why they had been chased by zombies and couldn't shake them off no matter what. Gushais grabbed a plastic bag and threw it out the wall, and the zombies immediately scrambled to snatch the rotten meat. After the looting was completed, the zombies were still guarding outside the door, but they were no longer as frenzied as before. As long as the surrounding stench completely dissipates, the zombies will also stagger away quite a bit, leaving only 2 or 3 who stubbornly remain outside the wall. After a while, a soldier behind Gushais looked at the old woman in disbelief, his eyes red as he questioned her. "Grandma, why are you doing this? We saved you, yet you treat us like this. Have you forgotten the 2 soldiers who were dragged away by zombies to save you? Is this how you repay us for rescuing you from the den of cannibals?" Hearing this, all the soldiers had pained expressions on their faces, and the old woman covered her face and began to cry. "My son and my partner died on the run, my daughter-in-law was also killed by those scoundrels, and I only have my grandson as my only relative. Have you thought about the families of the 2 soldiers who sacrificed themselves? Have you thought about us? How can you be so selfish?" The old woman was rendered speechless and could only cry while apologizing. "I'm sorry to those 2 young comrades, I'm sorry. If apologies were useful, I think they would definitely be willing to say them countless times, but unfortunately, time cannot be reversed, and there is no remedy for regret in this world." I listened coldly to their conversation and got a clear picture of the whole situation. I didn't expect my previous guess to come true. At first, there were drones everywhere calling for the city to repair the shelters. urging survivors to seek refuge, but the so-called shelters were man-made traps. Those who went to seek refuge were all robbed of their supplies by those who had been ambushed, becoming prisoners. Those people can only be described as insane. They kept useful people for themselves, while useless ones were either pushed out to fend off zombies or became their food. The old woman and the little girl were lucky. They were rescued by the team led by Goose Ice just one day after being deceived. But those bad guys kidnapped the old woman's grandson, and before Goose Ice and the others attacked, they threatened the old woman to take the bag of rotten meat to divert the zombies away from Goose Ice and his group. In this way, Goose Ice and his group saved the old woman and the little girl, and also drew away the zombies, allowing the bad guys to escape smoothly. Those zombies kept relentlessly chasing them because of that bag of rotten meat. The old woman held on to the hope of seeing her grandson one last time, keeping it a secret from Goose Ice and the others. If they hadn't encountered me today, they probably wouldn't even know the reason for being chased to death by zombies. No one expected the ending to be like this. If I feel something in my heart, I came to the first floor and asked the old woman through the window, "Are there both men and women in that group? Is the leader a big bald guy?" I briefly described the appearance of the few people I had killed, and the old woman indeed nodded excitedly. "Where did those people go? Young lady, have you seen my grandson?" I was momentarily at a loss for words. I didn't see the little boy. I only saw a lot of leftover severed limbs in the car's refrigerator of that group of people. The refrigerator has been burned by me, and now only the remains lie on the road outside. I couldn't say it, just coldly stated, "They are all dead." There are no children in the team. No one asked about the cause of death of these people. The bullet holes in the wall and the charred ground had long revealed that a great battle had taken place here. The warrior's gazes towards me suddenly became somewhat subtle. The old woman should have understood the implication of my words, lowering her head and crying silently. A pitiful person must have something to hate. I really cannot empathize with the old woman who implicated two soldiers. The warriors were also listless, and no one paid her any more attention. Only Goose Ice has been staring at my figure since I opened my mouth. I know he has already discovered me, and I fled back to the third floor. A somewhat trembling voice came from downstairs. "Lin Lin, is that you?" The soldiers were in an uproar upon hearing this. The person who saved them was the girl that the captain had been looking for all along. I didn't respond. And Goose Ice kept repeating this sentence downstairs relentlessly. The little warriors beside him were still cheering non-stop. "Sister-in-law, the captain has searched thousands of miles for his wife, and he has finally found you. We have broken up." The warriors were choked by me, yet they did not give up and continued to make faces at Goose Ice. "Sister-in-law, the captain has been looking for you for a long time. Just forgive him." "Yes, sister-in-law, the captain knows he was wrong. So please forgive the captain." These people also don't know how long it has been since they last ate or drank water. Clearly, the lips are cracked and bleeding, and everyone's stomachs are growling from hunger, yet they still have the leisure to laugh and play. Goose Ice kept repeating that sentence like a fool. "Is Lin Lin you?" I felt both helpless and amused, so I simply pulled open the curtains and shouted at him, "It's me." In the moment our eyes met. This man who had never shed a tear in front of me was now crying loudly like a child. "Lin Lin, it's so great that you're still alive. It's really great. I finally found you." My heart is sour, yet I don't know how to face him. Every little moment we spent together during our 4 years in college is a sweet memory whenever I think of it. My roommates have teased me more than once, saying that I and Goose Ice are too sweet, feeding them dog food for a full 4 years. But I have already taken his mother's money and broke up with him, so we probably have no future together. In this life, Goose Ice may be innocent, he knows nothing, but I cannot let go. It's just that now I clearly know that Goose Ice and the others pose no threat to me, yet I dare not open the door and face them directly. I have an extreme lack of security, and my first thought is about my own safety. Even if the person downstairs is Goose Ice, I still wouldn't dare to trust him completely. Silence is the best refusal. Fortunately, Goose Ice also knows that this is not the time for reminiscing. When he calmed down, I threw him a rope to hold on to. I sent them a large bucket of mineral water. compressed biscuits, and a bowl of freshly boiled quail eggs using a rope. My quail has hatched its second brood, and the number of eggs laid by dozens of chicks every day is quite impressive. I found the marinade pack and just happened to make a pot of egg stew with the eggs I've been hoarding these days. I can only say that Goose Shirtsy and the others are quite lucky. Seeing the water and food, the soldiers were all very surprised and thanked me one after another. I nodded at them and pulled the curtains closed again. After dark, a young soldier fired a signal flare into the sky. After sending the signal, Goose Shice instructed the soldiers to take off their sleeping bags and rest on the spot. I watched as they lined up in an orderly fashion, opened their sleeping bags, crawled in, and fell asleep immediately, and soon the sound of even snoring began to rise and fall. They are obviously extremely tired. After I threw down 2 thin quilts for the little girl and the old woman, I returned to the bedroom. Goose Shice is very cautious and still arranged for someone to keep watch at night. This night was the most peaceful sleep I've had since my rebirth. When I woke up, Goose Shice and his group had already left. He left me a small note on the iron gate, along with some mineral water and several bags of compressed biscuits. Lin, wait for me. I'll come to find you once I finish my task. Please make sure to wait for me. I tucked the note into my notebook and continued my hermit life. As time goes by, FM 89, 66 MHz broadcasts good news every time. Zombies in various provinces and cities are continuously being cleared. And regions are being reclaimed one by one and starting to be rebuilt. On the 285th day of the zombie virus outbreak, our country's research on the vaccine has made breakthrough progress and has begun clinical trials. On the 360th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the zombie vaccine developed by our country was officially launched and began to be promoted worldwide, applied to survivors. Ordinary people who have been vaccinated will be immune to the zombie virus and will not be attacked by zombies when encountered. Even if bitten, they will not turn into zombies. Those who have already turned into zombies are equivalent to death and cannot be cured. A thorough eradication of zombies has been launched worldwide. On the 385th day of the zombie virus outbreak, all zombified animals in the country have been exterminated. On the 400th day of the zombie virus outbreak, the last zombie in the country was eliminated. Marking the complete extinction of all zombie creatures in the country, the people of the country celebrate joyfully and begin to rebuild their homes. On the 401st day of the zombie virus outbreak, someone knocked on my door. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Goose Shice's incredibly familiar brows and eyes. He has tanned, matured, and has a scar on the back of his left ear. At this moment, he was wearing casual clothes, holding a bouquet of roses in his hands, and smiled brightly at me. Just like the day he first confessed to me in college, he knelt on one knee and looked into my eyes with devotion. Lin, would you be my girlfriend? I didn't dare to answer when I thought of the things between me and his mother before. I took your mother's money and promised her that I would break up with you. Don't you mind? Goose Shice couldn't help but laugh. After experiencing all of this for more than a year, my mom has long regretted what she did before. And she has been urging me to bring you home. Lin, do you know, I am very grateful to her, and I am incredibly fortunate that you have safely lived until now with this money. Otherwise, we might never see each other again, just like in the last life. I widened my eyes in shock, instantly understanding what Goose Shice meant. Is he really the one who, like me, has been reborn? My tears flow uncontrollably. Do you all know? Seeing me cry, Goose Shice could no longer hold back and pulled me into his arms. I know it all. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left you. A lot happened in the last life. Will you forgive me? After listening to Goose Shice's speech, I was already in tears and could not make a sound. Once I calmed down my emotions, I took the flowers and questioned with a stiff face, who was the person speaking next to you when you called me last time? Goose Shice had a look that I recognized immediately, and he quickly took out his phone to make a video call. Lin, listen to me. That was a misunderstanding. I can explain. Sister Lon, hurry, quickly explain it clearly to my girlfriend. I watched Goose Shice anxiously and clumsily have the girl on the phone explain to me, and in the end, I couldn't help but kiss his lips. This time I'm finally not alone. That's great. The end of the text. Goose Shice's side story. 7 days before the zombie virus outbreak. My mother told me that my grandfather in New Zealand was seriously ill and urged me to go abroad to visit him. 10 minutes before the plane took off, I received her call. As soon as the phone was connected, I heard my mother and my girlfriend Lynn's conversation. "There are 20 million in here, you understand what I mean, right? It turns out that in your heart, your son is only worth 20 million, which is even less than the value of your outfit today, 50 million. Plus this watch on your wrist, this set of necklace and earrings. I don't want a card, just transfer the money directly to me." Of course, the watch, earrings, and necklace can also be cashed out directly. I still hadn't reacted until my mother and Lynn finished their conversation. Is this really something my beloved girlfriend would say? Is this really the Lynn who I would feel heartbroken about spending $100 to buy a bag for? You heard it all, right? Mom has already told you that Lynn is after your money and can't stand the test. What she played before was just a trick of feigning indifference. The conversation between my mother and Lynn left me feeling upset. The plane was about to take off, so I hurriedly hung up the phone and saw Lynn's breakup message. "I want to make a phone call, but the flight attendants are already reminding us to turn off our phones. I must find Lynn and ask clearly as soon as I get off the plane. This journey will take almost 12 hours. I closed my eyes in frustration, thinking I wouldn't be able to sleep. Little did I know that I fell asleep just a few minutes later. I had a dream. In my dream, it was still this day, and my figure appeared outside the cafe at Lynn's house. But no one could see me. I saw Lynn awkwardly greet my mother, watching my mother look down from above and take out a card to make her leave me. Watching Lynn refuse with red eyes in shame and anger. She kept calling me dozens of times, but she couldn't get through. Seeing her cry sadly makes me feel unbearable, but I can't touch her at all, and she can't see me. I suddenly remembered that I worked overtime until midnight the day before and forgot to tell her that I was going abroad today. I just watched her cry sadly all night, and the next day I had to force myself to go to work. Later, I watched her get fired and evicted. Seeing her, who was not a local, struggling to get by in the vast city of Kyoto, she looks for me every day. But she can never find me. Until the zombie virus outbreak, I watched her hiding alone and helplessly, watching her being robbed of food and water for helping others out of kindness, watching her give up her dignity and lose herself in order to survive, falling into the dust, watching her write my name over and over again, her eyes filled with reluctance. Until I watched her being used as a shield and pushed into the zombie horde, watching her being bitten by the zombies. What about me? Where am I? As the scene shifted, I saw myself, just like today. I was also on the plane to New Zealand, but because the flight was earlier, I couldn't receive Lynn's call. After I fell asleep on the plane, I saw that the assistant my mother arranged for me secretly changed my SIM card, and I was completely unaware. After the plane arrived in New Zealand, I wanted to contact Lynn, but the assistant took advantage of the crowd at the departure terminal and deliberately stole my phone. I was anxious and restless after losing my phone. I wanted to call Lynn but found that I couldn't make an international call at all. I suddenly remembered that before graduation, because we received too many harassing calls, we both set up anti-harassment measures, and my international calls were directly blocked. It is very inconvenient to reissue a phone card abroad. I thought it wouldn't be too late to go back to find Lynn in a few days, but I didn't expect the zombie virus to suddenly break out. I was completely trapped in New Zealand, and it was only at this time that my grandfather told me he wasn't sick at all. Everything was just because my mother looked down on Lynn and deliberately sent me away. Lynn's unemployment and being kicked out of her rental apartment were all my mother's manipulations to make her realize the difficulty and back off. I am in great pain, wanting to question my mother but unable to contact her, let alone Lynn. My grandparents live on a farm in New Zealand, and they are the owners of the farm. The farm is far from the city, with abundant supplies and a well. Relying on these, we survived in the apocalypse. By the time social order was restored and international airports reopened, it was 10 years later. In the 8th year of the apocalypse, my grandfather and grandmother passed away one after another, and I set off on my journey back to my country alone. Unfortunately, whether it was my mother or Lynn, I can no longer find them. I searched for them my whole life, and in the end, I died with regrets and unable to close my eyes. The screen flipped, and in the blink of an eye, everything returned to the beginning, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. I seemed to have fallen into a loop. I watched Lin Lin repeatedly refuse her mother. I boarded the plane. The zombie virus broke out. Lin Lin died tragically. I was trapped in a foreign land, and we would never see each other again until death. Until this time, Lin Lin seemed to have suddenly changed into a different person. She not only accepted her mother's money but also told me she wanted to break up. I suddenly woke up. Cold sweat had soaked my entire body. The scenes in my dream are incredibly clear, so real that it feels like I have experienced them myself. I glanced at the assistant sleeping beside me and opened my phone with a bit of trembling. The phone card has indeed been replaced. My heart is turbulent, yet I dare not act rashly. I do not know if the future will be like in my dreams. Nor am I sure if the zombie virus will actually break out. I still need to verify. I continued to pretend to sleep until I got off the plane and exited the terminal. I wanted to call Lin Lin as if in a dream, but my assistant interrupted me with excuses. My phone was lost in just a few minutes. Everything is exactly the same as in my dreams, and my hand hidden under my sleeve can't help but tremble. I borrowed my assistant's phone to call my father and told him about my dream. Focusing on the impending outbreak of the zombie virus, with my father's help, I persuaded my grandparents to take the nearest flight back home immediately. Only when I stood at the airport in Kyoto again did I feel at ease. After settling the 2 elders, I wanted to find Lin Lin, but I realized I couldn't find her. Time is tight, and with less than 4 days until the zombie virus outbreak, I am extremely anxious. My father is a soldier, compared to personal issues. He is more concerned about the zombie virus I mentioned. He told me that in the face of a crisis for all humanity, personal issues are nothing at all. Nowadays, his choice to trust me is also a great risk, and for things that have not yet happened, all he can do is to try to prevent them in advance. My father informed my mother to stock up on supplies, and then he detained me at the military department, not allowing me to contact the outside world. He gave me paper and pen and asked me to write in detail about the zombie virus. I couldn't go against my father, nor could I escape, so I could only try to remember the things about the zombie virus in my dreams. I carefully wrote down key information about the characteristics and weaknesses of zombies, the transmission methods of the zombie virus, and the names of scientists who developed the vaccine. After my father took away that information, he still kept me locked in the military department until 2 days later when local news broke about the biting incident, and only then did my father reappear in front of me. Scheisse, your dream is very likely true. We have established a research team to respond to the zombie virus, and you will be the special advisor of the team. Dad, what should I do about Lin Lin? I want to go find Lin Lin. Scheisse, the country needs you now. Wasn't your childhood dream to become a soldier and serve the motherland? Lin Lin is no longer in Kyoto. I found out she bought a ticket back to Yun province. Forgive me, Dad cannot let you leave at this time. I also found a message she posted on various platforms using an anonymous IP before. Take a look. I think she knew about the end of the world in advance just like you did. I believe she is a smart girl, and she will be fine. Looking at the doomsday warning message released by Lin Lin, I was filled with shock. Did Lin Lin have the same dream as me? So this time she made a different choice. Whether for myself or for the country has always been a dilemma. In the end, I silently stayed in the military. The outbreak of the zombie virus occurred earlier than I remembered, catching everyone off guard. The Kyoto government immediately promoted my father to be fully responsible for the defense of Kyoto, while also giving me the greatest command authority. I immediately mobilized all streaming media to alert the public, broadcasting the weaknesses of zombies and precautions for dealing with and avoiding zombies across all online channels. The Kyoto shelter, which was initially set aside due to disbelief, was immediately worked on overtime to be constructed. I am as busy as a spinning top, with almost no time to sleep. The day the zombie virus completely broke out, I was busy until midnight. After finally borrowing a phone, I couldn't help but dial Lin Lin's number. The phone rang several times, and my heart was in my throat until the call was connected. Lin, are you okay? But before I could wait for Lin's response, the biological research expert Zhang Lan next to me was awakened by my noise. Since the biting incident occurred, my father immediately brought in experts who could write down names from various places to form a specialized biological research team. I eat, live, and travel with the research team, with both men and women all gathered together sleeping on the floor. I didn't expect that as soon as Zhang Lan spoke. Lin hung up the phone. I was dumbfounded. Zhang Lan noticed that my expression was off, and only then did she realize something was wrong. Scheiße, what's wrong? I am anxious and burning with impatience, but when I call again, I find that this number has already been blocked. I looked at Zhang Lan with a face full of helplessness. Lan Jia, my girlfriend might have misunderstood. If we can meet in the future, you must help me explain. Zhang Lan awkwardly nodded. Don't worry, sure so. I promise to help you prove it. Our conversation is not over yet. New virus samples have already arrived, and everyone is afraid to take a break, so they immediately get up and start the experiments. Although I am not an expert, I am the one who knows the most about the zombie virus. After working non-stop for a month, I can no longer help with the vaccine research. I returned to the command center to help my father improve the construction of the shelter. The network and communication had long been interrupted, and one day I finally couldn't help but beg the broadcaster of the day to let me take his place. When the broadcast was over, I searched for Lin's whereabouts among the survivors across the country. Although my father scolded me for privately occupying public resources and locked me up for 3 days, I don't know if Lin heard it. I just want to tell her that I will always wait for her. 3 months after the outbreak of the zombie virus, the Kyoto shelter has completely stabilized. I found my father and applied to go to Yun province to join the troops for exterminating zombies. My father knew I wanted to find Lin, so he didn't stop me. I believe Lin is still alive. Since she hasn't come to find me, I'll go find her. I have walked through many places in Yun province, and whenever I encounter someone in trouble, I will do my best to rescue them. It turns out that in your heart, your son is only worth 20 million, which is even less than the value of your outfit today. I am afraid that by the time I find her, she will have already become a corpse or turned into an ignorant, soulless zombie. I fear that she is not doing well, suffering like I did in my dreams. I often feel grateful that no news is good news, even if I'm just deceiving myself. I think I will search for it again and again throughout my life, just like I do in my dreams, until the end of my life. Fortunately, the heavens did not let me down. She and I met in a wonderful way. The day I led my team to rescue an elderly woman and a child. We have been fleeing for a day and a night, but the number of zombies chasing us behind is increasing. Ammunition is running low. We have already sacrificed 2 people. I want to lead everyone to break out, but I don't know which way to go. Just as I was hesitating to let everyone go first while I stayed behind, a drone appeared. It circled around us, beeped twice, and surprisingly, I understood the drone owner's intention, asking us to follow it. I led my team and successfully hid in a strange small building following the drone. The owner of the small building had not shown up until the zombie horde became increasingly agitated, and she wrote a crooked note. The handwriting is somewhat familiar, but I can't be sure. No one knows that my hand holding the note has been trembling all along. I forced myself to remain calm and ordered the inspection as she instructed, and the old woman indeed had a problem. I hardly paid attention to the conversation between the warriors and the old woman. I kept asking myself in my heart, "Is it you?" until the conversation among the crowd ended. I finally heard her voice. I never imagined that the person I have been thinking about day and night, searching for every day, is just a wall away from me at this very moment. She also saved my life. The corners of my mouth are upturned, but my eyes can't help but feel a bit moist. I finally found Lin. Seeing her safe, I felt an indescribable calm in my heart. But now is not the time for us to reunite. I had someone fire a signal flare, and we waited for our pickup at dawn the next day. I asked Lin to wait for me until I finished the task. Once the zombie virus is completely eradicated, I will go find her. I think we have gone through the cycle of 9 lives, and this time we will surely achieve completeness.